In this video, we're going to be taking a look at digitizing a cap design. And I got the idea from this video right here, and I will post a link in the video description below to this video so you can check it out. Now, this particular video is for the Chroma embroidery digitizing software. And Chroma is $800 on its base level plus a monthly fee beyond that. So, whereas InkScape and InkStitch, totally free. Takes a little bit of more know-how probably with InkScape and InkStitch, and a little bit more time, definitely. But it's totally free. But there is a lot of good topics in here, and the main thing I wanted to point out is that other embroidery videos with other software that's talking about various techniques can be implemented in Inkscape and InkStitch. So if you watch his video and then watch this one, I think you'll see like, wow, that's kind of interesting that we can kind of do the exact same thing in InkStitch and Inkscape that we could do in this expensive Chroma embroidery software. So let's go into Inkscape and take a look at the project. So we're going to hit File and Import. And we're going to first look at his finished example here. So this is what we're after right here. You can see there how he's got it all routed and so forth. Looking pretty good, right? So that's what we're after as well. And then let's go ahead and import the artwork that we're going to start with, which is this right here. Okay. So there is our artwork. So I'm going to right click and choose Trace Bitmap, step 1. We're going to use brightness and contrast here, or this brightness cutoff rather, and we don't need quite so much, so we're going to back it up a little bit till we have just our logo. You see here we have just our logo. And we're going to go ahead and choose Apply. And there it is. There is the bits and bobs that we need, so we could delete that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just break this apart. So Shift Control K. We could also go to our path menu up here and choose the same thing, break apart. Okay. Let's go to our layers palette and we see a million pieces of stuff here. So we don't need all of that. So what I'm going to focus on is just this. You see, you have this piece, you have this piece, and that piece of the E there. So we're going to select all of that, and that's all we need. So we're going to combine that back together. Oh, so we didn't get that other piece there. So let's do that quick. So Control K and combine that together. So that takes care of that, which means everything else as far as a path we do not need. So we'll delete all of that. We need that one, but anything that's below this, except our image, we don't need. Okay, so now we're back to just our finished sample and this one single path. So the first thing to do probably is to resize this for our cap. So I am going to switch my unit values here to inches. And we're going to go 2.25 because that is my max size for my cap on my Brother PR600 is what I use. So now what we need to do is we need to slice and dice. So you see where he has his satin columns here? Here, cut here, cut here, cut here, etc. So that's what we need to do. If you watch his video, you'll see where he talks about these split lines in Chroma and how he goes about it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to grab our pen tool. So our pen tool is right here. I like to use keyboard shortcuts, so I'm always using keyboard shortcuts. But what we're going to do now is we're going to turn on snapping right up here, and we're going to draw some lines. So I'm going to click here, and we're going to click right here, and we're going to click here and here. So you see that line that we created. Now we don't want to fill. That line has a fill, but we do need a stroke. Okay. So now we can continue on. And the way I'm doing that is left clicking with my mouse and then shift clicking any of these colors will change that. Okay. So now I can continue on everywhere where I need to cut. or in his video he calls it split lines. So yes, anywhere we need to split a line, we need to do that. So right here. Now normally, you see this little wing that I created? I do like to create those wings. So all the way through. That'll help us in the long run. So just keep going along here. Wing, 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 wing. Anywhere you want that satin column to be split. Okay, now I did not make my wing. So we do want wings. So anywhere we want our satin column to split, we just need to make a little path to split it. And then we need to split it right here. Okay, and then we need to split it right here. Excellent. And then, yes, we need to split it up here too, don't we? So right there, here, here, and here. And here, 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 and here. Okay, there you go. So now I'm pretty confident that that is all of my split lines. So we're good there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to select all of those split lines that we just created. And we're going to combine them together, hitting Control K. Of course, you can... I don't know what I did there. What did I do? This piece. Let's hide that. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I grabbed that that piece, and I should have. My bad. So yes, we grab everything else but our original graphic. I'm sorry, and then Control K. That is our keyboard shortcut, but you can obviously go up to Path and choose Combine as well. Okay. So now that we have all of our split lines created, now we can go ahead and select our split lines and our original path. Our split lines do need to be on top of our original path for this to function. But if we go to Path and choose Division, you will see that everywhere we had a split line, that our pieces are now split. Okay, so each one of those now become a satin stitch. Okay. So now it's just a matter of going through and setting up our satin. So all we have to do is select our text. We're going to give it no fill by left clicking with our mouse. And then we're going to give it some type of stroke with shift click. Okay, there we go. And now we can come in here and start editing all of these pieces to create satin. Okay, so it's this process is the same with any type of name or anything that you do. It's going to be the exact same way. So what we're going to do is come in here and let's see here. How do I want to explain this? Let's do this. Let's go ahead and turn off the visibility of everything but the piece that we have selected. Okay, so let's just look at this all by itself. Double click to go into node mode and then click here. And you see those two nodes? That means we can hit Alt Delete. Okay, that will delete that segment. And see how that looks funny? That looks weird right there, right? Just go ahead, Control Alt Delete that one. Okay, we won't worry about that for right now. And then come down here where we want the satin to end and hit Shift and B. Okay, I won't even show you. Okay, I'll show you how to do it, but don't ever use this. See that it says break path at notes, but do remember that keyboard shortcut of Shift B. All right, so let's go ahead and convert this to satin and see what we created. So I go into params in InkStitch. I'm going to use my keyboard shortcut from now on. I'm not going to go up here, but I'll show you how to get to params. Extensions, InkStitch, params. But I set a keyboard shortcut, Control Alt P, so I'll use that from now on. Okay, so we don't want running stitches. We do need satin column and see what we get. Whoa! Well, that's unexpected, isn't it? Wowza! Okay, so that is precisely not what we want. Apply and quit. The only reason I showed you that was to show you that, yes, by default, you will not get the results that you expected. But if you know what InkStitch is asking for, it's really easy to control. Okay, so when we're doing satin stitches, InkStitch has to know what angles we want our satin stitches to be. And the way we would normally do that is with something they call rungs. Okay. Now I'm a big proponent of not using rungs, so I will not show you how to use rungs. Uh, but um, but it's really easy to control satin stitches here inside InkStitch. So let me show you that. Okay. So double click on our path again. So everywhere there's a node that is our stitch angle. Okay. So like here's a node. And what we need to do is we need to have an equal pairing of nodes on both sides of the path so it knows how the needle is supposed to travel, right? Well, the reason that we got those unexpected results is because we have an uneven number of nodes, and so it doesn't know what we want because we don't have rungs. If we had rungs, then it would say, oh, okay, you want us to follow the rungs. But in this case, we don't have rungs. So it says, okay, you want us to use nodes. But sadly, our nodes are all jacked up. Okay, so really easy to fix if we know what we're doing. So Control Alt, and anytime we click on our path, we can create a node. So that's a stitch angle. Well, we don't need this guy, so Control Alt Delete. Okay, we don't really need that. Control Alt Delete. We don't really need that. Control Alt Delete. And as you're deleting nodes, you will see if the path moves or it doesn't move, and then you'll get a feel for, okay, Control Alt Delete. We don't need that node. We don't need that node. That node. That node. We don't need that node. Now you did see the path move just a touch. Okay, so what we could do is we can come in here, add a node here. Now watch when I delete this one, path doesn't move. Okay, so that's just kind of a little quirky InkScape thing more than an InkStitch thing. Okay, so we'll add a node there, but we don't need that. So now, if we look here, there's a pair, 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 there's a pair there, and then there's one on top of the other down here at the end. So now we should more or less get the result that we want. Now, there is one other way to double check this, because we could still have nodes on top of nodes. Okay, so I've selected all the nodes. See that there? And look down there. See it says 14 of 14 nodes. So now it should give us the expected result that we want. Okay, so if I go back into params, Bob's your uncle. There you go. We do get our expected results. That's because we took care of all the node issues, and now we got exactly what we want. So we'll go ahead and choose apply and quit, and there we go. Now what I like to do is when I finish something, I like to go ahead and just turn it off, because now I know that that is taken care of. I'm going to go ahead and turn all these on right now. Let's see here. I did not get these, so let's turn everything on. So what I would do is as I finish it, just go ahead and turn off the visibility and move on to my next piece. Okay, so now we have our letter E. So right at the tip, we want to end there, Shift B. This section, now this is going to be a little bit tricky because we've got a path on top of a path. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's extend this out and see what we have. So there, you see that there? So this piece right here, we could just Alt Delete and get rid of that, okay? And then we have to do, now in order for this to work, first of all, I'm going to delete that and I'm going to delete that, okay? And now we gotta pair up our nodes. We got all kinds of issues here. So we're going to delete that one. Take a look at this one. That one's fine, okay? So we don't need that one. We don't need that one. We don't need that one. To maintain our shape. That's what we're talking about when we don't need that one to maintain our shape. This here, we're going to smooth that out. We don't need that one to maintain our shape. That one's fine. That one's fine. Okay, we need that one, but we definitely don't need this one, or this one. Okay, so we just click on delete all those. We'll need that one. We don't need that guy right there. We don't really need that one either. That one is fine. Coming around the bend. Okay, So there we go. So that's all taken care of. So now the only thing we might want to do is add some nodes to control stitch angles. So that's going to be a stitch angle. That's going to be a stitch angle. We'll do one. We'll add a node there for a stitch angle, there for a stitch angle, but we don't need that one. So we're going to pair that up, pair this up, pair this up, and then we're pairing that up. And then we're pairing that up. And then let's add one here and get rid of the, we don't have to get rid of it. We're just going to add another one to it. And same thing here. Okay? So we'll go ahead and extend this out. And we'll extend this one just a little bit as well. Just past itself, just a little bit there. Not too much. All right, so what we should now get when we go into params and set that as a satin stitch, we should get our expected result. If we did everything correctly, and look at there. A beautiful, right? So let's go ahead and choose apply and quit, and that's taken care of. So now that that's taken care of, we can close that one out. Oops, there we go. So now that one's taken care of. So now we're just going to go ahead and move on. Now, so what I would typically do is I wouldn't go into params on each individual object. I'm just going to run through, take care of all of my edits. I'm going to bring you with me and just briefly explain. It's the same process all the way through. So click here on our path, Alt Delete. So we don't need that end. Up here, Shift B. Okay, now we have to control our nodes. So we'll pair that up is fine. Pair that up. We definitely don't need that one. That's fine. We can click here. We could bend this one a little bit. So if we want to just bend that node out a little bit. We can't really see it because this one's right behind it, but it's curved a little bit. It's softened a little bit there. So we'll go ahead and get rid of nodes we don't need to maintain our path. You can see here we've got some nodes on top of nodes happening here. So we'll get rid of our extra node. And you can see that does look a little funky there, but that's okay. I'm not going to concern myself too much about that. So we can leave that one. And then we'll just pair up our pairs here. So we need that one, that one. Okay, so that should more or less be correct. So we'll just keep moving on here. We will delete that segment. This needs to, okay, we're going to delete this segment. And then we don't need that or that to maintain our shape. We don't need that to maintain our shape. That one we'll leave. We'll add one there. We probably don't need that, that, or that. Whoa, I guess we do need that one. So we'll make a match for it over here. Okay. So now that matches, that matches, that matches, that matches. So there we go. So we'll Shift B up here and then control our nodes. We don't need this one or this one or this one. And there we go. So that should be good to go to convert to satin. Then over here, we are going to split that node there, and we're going to split this one right here. And then we have to control our nodes for our shape, so we don't need that one or that one. We'll go ahead and leave that and that. We'll go ahead and do that. And this will control our stitch angles at this point. We don't need that, 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 that. We can leave that, and we probably don't need that or that. Okay, and as we're deleting those, our path isn't moving, so we know we're good. If not, we can just Control Z and back up a step, and take care of it that way too. So I'm going to go ahead and add one there and delete that one. Okay, excellent. So that's taken care of. That's taken care of. All of those are now taken care of. All of these right here. Those should all be taken care of, so we can go ahead and turn off the visibility of all of that. Moving on to our letter S here. So it's the same process. Where we want it to end, Shift B. We've got a segment here that we can't have, so we get rid of that. And then we got to go and take care of our nodes. So the first thing I like to do is get rid of any extra nodes. That's kind of how I do it, that I know we don't need to maintain shape. Okay, now that one did change our shape a little bit, so we'll go back and I just hit Control Z. So now that we've controlled our shape, okay, more or less, right? So now that we've controlled our shape, I'm going to go ahead and add a node right there and then delete this one. We don't need that. Okay, so we have our start and end point there for our stitch angle. Okay, that matches this one here. I'm going to add, and then we'll delete this one. And then I'm going to just put it back in and get rid of this one. Okay, now I think I'm going to leave that. I changed my mind. So stitch angle, maybe we don't need this one then right there. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. And maybe we'll just move it over here. Something like that. And maybe even get rid of that. Okay, so start and end point, and then we stitch angles, stitch angles, stitch angle, stitch angle, stitch angle. Okay, very happy with that. Moving on here. So up here, we're going to Shift B. We want that satin to end up there, and then we want the satin to end over here. Shift B. And then we are going to just bend this out a little bit, not much, something like that. And now we're going to go in and control our shape by getting rid of nodes that we know we don't need to control our shape. So we'll leave that one. We'll leave this one. Okay. See how our shape moved a little bit? But the corners we do want to leave. Okay. Because that we do need those. But like this one, this is a straightaway. So we don't need those to control shape. We can leave that one, but all this around the bend here, we don't need. And you can see as I'm deleting those, our path is not moving significantly. So that one there, and then this is just an extra one there. Okay, so now we have our shape kind of simplified. Our stitch angle right there, let's put that there and get rid of that. So that's one stitch angle. That's a stitch angle. So you have that. That'll be a stitch angle. So that'll be a stitch angle. This will be a stitch angle. Let's add one in between. On real sharp curves like this, I do like to have one right there at the center of the curve. We could straighten it back out, going up the column here. That can be that. And yes, there we go. Okay. So now that should all stitch out like we expect. So we'll go ahead and turn off the visibility there. And moving on, this piece here, we don't need that. Right up top here, Shift B. And then we have to control our shape. So get rid of those pieces that we don't think we need to control our shape. Such as that. That we can leave. That we can. We're just going to move our path out a little bit here. Let's just get rid of that. We've got several on top of one another there. That'll work. That we can leave. We've got what we got there. Let's just go ahead and get rid of it. Okay, so now that piece is pretty well taken care of. So now we just need to control some stitch angles. There and there. Now we want that to straighten out when it gets back there. And then there. Okay, so that takes care of that one. Should be pretty close anyhow. We're going to go back in and obviously double check. Once we feel like we're at a point where we can go back through and take a look and make sure that all those are going to work out like we expect them to. So I think what I'm going to do here is we need to delete this segment right here, like so. And then we deleted that. Okay, so let's control our shape. Don't need that, that, or that to control shape. We don't need this, this. Oh, we do need that one. That one's kind of crazy. So we do need that, and we'll get rid of this, get rid of that, that, and that. There's a bunch of nodes stacked right on top of one another there. So that takes care of that. All right, so that's gonna stitch angle, stitch angle, stitch angle, stitch angle, all the way up to there. I think we're good there. So we'll go ahead and close that out. And then this little guy here, this one's the easy one. We just delete. I accidentally created a node there where I didn't want to. So we're going to delete that and then select the path and then delete that. Yes. And then we have some extras that we definitely don't want. Something strange going on over here. So that's fine, but we don't need this guy. So that is fine for now. All right. So this, we can get rid of that, that, and that. And we'll get rid of this and this. Maybe we'll leave that one. So I just hit Control Z to back up. We can get rid of that, that, that. And that's okay. Probably don't need that. Oh, I guess we do need that one. So I'll just hit Control Z. So we don't need that or that or that or that. Or there's a bunch stacked up on top of one another there. So we get rid of this one. I'm hitting Control Alt and then hitting Delete key and watching my path as I do it. Make sure my path is not changing significantly. And there we go. So now we've simplified that. That's all looking pretty good. Let's see here. I don't know. There's a path or a node on top of a node there. So guess we can go ahead and delete that extra node. And another one. We got several right on top of one another. So we'll add one on each side and delete all these right there. There we go. Now we got it. So yes, so that all looks good. So now we can go ahead and convert this into satin. So with that node that we added, we'll hit Shift B, come down here, hit Shift B, and then we'll control our satin stitches with our nodes. So that will go like that. We don't need that one. That needs a mate. That needs a mate. And the rest is already taken care of. So there we go. That one's taken care of. So we'll go ahead and close that out. So let's zoom in here. We don't need that. And right down here, we'll hit Shift B. That will convert that to satin. And now we have to control our shape. So we'll get rid of all of these extra nodes that we don't need to control our shape. All right. So now we'll go back in and we'll add some nodes to control our shape a little bit better. So we will go here and here, here and here, here and here. And all I'm doing is just double clicking on my path. Guess we'll delete that one. And then we'll add some there. And we'll put one right there in the middle. Okay? So now I think that will describe that path pretty good. So we go ahead and turn that one off, and then we just have this last little piece. So we'll delete that. Come in tight here. We'll add one right here at the tip, and we're going to Shift B, and then we're going to get rid of nodes that we don't need. You see we have nodes on top of nodes up here, so we delete all these extras. Something like that. I don't like this node right here. I want it a little bit smoother there. So there we go. We can control some stitch angles. I think that's good. Now, that more or less gets what we need, right? So let's go ahead and select all of these up to there, and we'll turn all those on. That path is on as well. Now what we have to do is we have to kind of fine tune what we did. So to do that, I think it's best to do it in wireframe mode so you can see this. So you see this right here. We do have snapping turned on. So we just need to bring these pieces up like so, okay? And then you can kind of see how you can kind of control that. So that's going to connect there. This will go ahead and connect. And this will go ahead and connect. And we're just snapping to that line. So we're going to just go through where all these are supposed to connect. Now see there, we're not supposed to have a segment there. So we're just going to Alt delete that. I'm not sure if I didn't catch that originally or what, but that's not a big deal. And for right now, we're just going to touch all those borders. Okay, so that's where all these connections are happening. That's fine. So we're just touching right at the moment. We may refine that a little bit as we get into this. But for right now, that's all we're doing. We're just making sure everything is touching. So this one right here, it needs to touch. Okay, touch, touch, touch. This one here, touching. What are we doing up here? Touching. And it looks like we have another issue up here. Sometimes this is easier to see in wireframe mode, but it does in fact look like we have a segment there that we should not have. Not a big deal because we can select that and Alt delete. That's why we're going in and double checking everything. See, like this one, that doesn't have a line segment there because we took it out. So just we got to just go back there and just kind of double check everything here and make sure it's all correct. Okay. That's not quite touching, but we do want it to touch. That's fine. This is a little bit different. This is going to stitch over on top of itself. So that's just a little bit different situation there. Okay, we do need some control handles because I want to touch that up a little bit. There we go. All right, so that is our first kind of preliminary walkthrough of our design. So now what we want to do is take the whole kit and caboodle here and go ahead and set the satin stitch params that we want. So first of all, I usually, when I do this, because I had set some parameters on some pieces, so when I just kind of to reset everything, I just click. I turn off satin columns and then turn it back on, and that will kind of reset for all of my shapes. And then I would do the same thing for my contour underlay. I would turn it on, I would turn it off, I'd turn it back on again. And then for my zigzag that I want, I would do the same thing. And then if I had set these params previously, clicking them on and off kind of resets everything and to the way I want. And then the only thing I'm going to do differently on the zigzag, I like to use 2.5 millimeters maximum stitch length because I know that some of these satin columns are kind of wide, and so I would prefer by doing that, your machine's going to run a lot quicker because if I had the zigzag, like this is like 8 millimeters here, okay? So if I had the zigzag going, then the machine would run kind of slow because it would have to jump from one side, pop over to the other, and back. Whereas if I use the 2.5 millimeter stitch, it's just going to blaze right through it. It's not going to slow down. It's going to slow down when it does the satin stitches on top, but otherwise it's not going to slow down. Now, we have some issues in this design. You can see this here, like on this letter L. You see how these satin stitches are kind of wacky? Where else do we have wackiness going on? Oh yeah, right here on the U, we had some wackiness, and everything else is okay. So everything else, we might take a look at this piece of the H here. I think that's okay, but we might look at that separately. but everything else I think is okay. The other thing that I want to look at is, see here on my S where that last stitch is, it's just barely at the end. Everything else is kind of snugged up, but I want to take a look at that right there. Everything else though, when we zoom in here, is pretty snug and I'm pretty satisfied with. Okay, but that right there, I'm not happy with that connection right there. But everything else, I am happy with the way it looks. Okay, so we've got to fix the L, we've got to fix the U, and take a look at the start and end point there. All right, so I just choose apply and quit. So our first step here is, what is the issue here? Well, usually what the issue is when we have unexpected results like we did with our letter L, it's because it's a node issue. Okay, so because we're not using rungs, we're using nodes. So let's select this. So I'm in my, hold down my Alt key and come in here and grab these nodes real quick. 15 of 15 nodes down there in my info bar. So I definitely have a node on top of a node. So, or I'm missing a node. So if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the outside, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the inside. So what that tells us is we have a node on top of a node. And usually where that happens is up top here. So when I move that, you saw that whole path move, right? And when I move this one, you saw the whole path move. So it's not there, but it's usually at one of those endpoints. And look at there. When I moved it, let's turn off our transformation handles. Sometimes those are confusing. So I move this one. Nope, no extra node there. I move this one. Nope, no extra node there. So where is my elusive node? There is an extra node here somewhere. Aha, there it is. See that? I moved it and that one stayed. So there's a node on top of a node right there. So now when I move it, there is no. So now watch. When I look at that one piece, let's go ahead and look at that one piece in params here. What we should see is we should see satin, we should see a contour underlay, we should see a zigzag underlay. All that we should see. And you can see we do still have all that. But now if we look, we have the expected satin stitch all the way up the way we need it to be. Okay, so that's usually what the issue is. So the other thing was this piece of the U. Let's double check it. Let's go ahead and look at it params. I'm using my keyboard shortcut. That's why they're so powerful to have. But you can see we have our contour, and then you can see we have our crazy zigzag. So yes, indeed, we have an issue because of this. You see it going like that. All right, so we definitely have a node issue here too. So you can see here, if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then on the inside 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So in this case, we don't have a node on top of a node. We are lacking a node. So that has a pair, that has a pair, that has a pair, that has a pair, this has a pair. This little guy is all down here by his lonesome. So we just add a node, like so. We'll add a node over here, and we'll go ahead and get rid of him. Okay, so now when we look at it in params, now we should have our expected result. Indeed. There's our zigzag underlay, and then we have our nice satin stitch on top, coming around the other end that way. Perfect. Exactly what we expected. So now the last thing that I saw right off rip was this connection. I did not like this connection. So let's go into wireframe mode and take a look at this connection and see why I didn't like it. Well, I'm not sure. I think what my issue is with this connection is that this line right here is it's kind of sunken in. So if I were to bring it out a little bit, just like that, I mean just a tiny little bit, it's not like so sunken in. I mean that's what I think the problem is. I don't know that for sure, but I think that's what the issue is. So it's a tiny little adjustment, fractional adjustment, but let's just look at it now in Simulator. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. You see how nice and tight that is there? Beautiful. I am happy with that. So there you go. So we're going to just really scrutinize this one more time for the satin. I think we're good though. I think, yes, I think that's going to stitch out lovely. All right, so I'm going to leave you here. Okay, now this design is obviously not done, but it's a really good start on this design. I just wanted to show you just with, just a couple of basic skills, how easy it is to get pretty nice results pretty quickly. All right. If I were to do this for real, start to finish, it would probably take me like 30 minutes. All right. But because I'm taking the time to explain it, it takes a little bit longer. But if I was just going to go in there and bust it out, it'd probably take me about 30 minutes to do this. So we're pretty close. What I do want to look at is our info panel here. A couple things I want to talk about. So in our info panel, you see that we have 13 thread jumps, and that is typically not good, especially considering the design that we're working on, because the design that we're working on should stitch from start to finish and not stop, technically. Now, because this is going to be digitized specifically for a cap, we're going to start from the inside of our design and work out. So we're going to start with the letter S and work this way, and then we will have a thread trim, come back and TLE on the other side, okay? So that is how we want it to stitch out for a cap. So, but in between these letters, let's turn on our frogs, and you'll see all the problems that we have. So you see all these jump stitches going every which way. That is precisely what we don't want. Okay, we need to control that. And that's another whole process of the design process. So I'm not going to do it in this video, but do look for part 2, and I'll talk about routing and pathing, and explain how we're going to go about doing it. But that is just something else that we have to do. It's the last step of the process. Okay, so we'll control that. Now, the one other thing I did want to point out to you, and where can I show it to you? Let's see. I can show it to you right here. So you see this underlay that's being added. This is our zigzag underlay. I want to turn on our needle points over here. And you can see here, we have some needle penetrations in the middle of this zigzag, okay? And the reason that we do have those penetrations is because we told in params, we set the zigzag maximum stitch length to 2.5 millimeters. That's what I like to do. But let's go ahead and close this out. That is just kind of a standard param that I use, 2.5 millimeters. Let's go into params and look at this so you can really understand what's happening here. You could use 3 or 4, but what happens here is, let me just stop this for a minute, back up here. So what happens is, when you stitch this out on your machine, if we look at the stitch needle points, let's go to zigzag underlay, and usually by default, that param is empty, okay? So when we're adding a zigzag underlay, by default, it is just going to add a zigzag underlay. It's going to go from one side to the other, and create a zigzag, okay? Which is fine if that's what you want. But when it gets to these wider points of the satin column, what's going to happen is the machine's going to slow down, go zip, 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 because that's the only way it can make those jumps, okay? So to avoid that on the underlay, now the satin top, when you do your satin stitches on top, you can't avoid that, okay? So your machine is going to stitch your satin stitches considerably slower because it's got to make all these wide jumps. What I consider wide is really probably anything over, 4 millimeters. But so that's why I usually use a stitch length of 2.5 millimeters. You could possibly, you could even probably use 3.5 or whatever you wanted, really. All right. The bigger that dimension is, the fewer needle points you'll have. Okay. So maybe we'll go. So if we look at this stitch count right now, you can see it's at 363. Well, if I change that to 2.5, you can see we're at 398. So we added about 30 stitches, just for that just for that small thing there. So if I do 3 millimeters, we're at 380, okay? But we have fewer penetrations on our zigzag stick. So I typically use 2.5, but you know, you could use something different. But by doing that, by having these needle points in the center, and your maximum stitch length of 3 millimeters, then it is just going to run. Your machine will run at full speed. It will not need to slow down to move 3 millimeters. Okay, or 2.5 millimeters, or whatever the parameter is. I usually use 2.5, but you know, it's up to you. But that's that. Anyhow, that's just what we're doing there on that part of it. Okay. So, like I said, I'm going to leave you here with this up to this point here. But then do check out our next video where we have to go in and set this up for production and actual stitch out. And I don't know, maybe I'll even stitch this out just so you can see what it looks like when it's all stitched out as well. Thanks for watching.